Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're wading into some really insightful material you shared with us, all focused on this idea of sustainable leadership.
Right. And not just leadership, but the spiritual, the emotional depth that's required.
Exactly. We're looking at inner formation for outer impact.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's unpack this right away, because the main idea here, it runs completely counter to, the hustle culture we see everywhere.
Oh, completely.
The sources are saying that most leaders, these really high-capacity people, they don't fail because they're not smart enough or, because they lack strategy.
It's not a competence issue?
No. They fail because their inner life, it just can't hold up. It can't sustain the weight of everything happening on the outside. There's a phrase for it that just, it nails it.
Vision outpaces character.
Demand exceeds depth. So good.
It's the perfect lens for this whole deep dive. Our goal here is to get really clear on why. Why can't raw talent or, charisma carry a leader through the tough times?
Through the real strain and the moral gray areas.
Exactly. We're trying to grasp this idea that real lasting impact, it isn't achieved, it's forged. It's forged through that inner work.
And you can feel how urgent this is, right? Now, you look around, our professional culture, it rewards all the wrong things.
Visibility over depth.
Speed over actually thinking something through.
Performance over presence.
And the result is, sadly predictable. Burnout everywhere, exhaustion, and this sort of quiet, slow chipping away at a person's integrity. The whole system is set up to reward the unformed self.
It is. And that's the big blind spot we have to confront first. We treat leadership like it's this external thing.
A skill set.
Right, a skill set. It's all about frameworks and metrics and communication techniques. And we just sort of assume that the courage and the integrity to use those skills.
You can just pull it out of a hat when you need it.
Yeah, that you can summon it on demand when things get tough.
So wait, if we're so rigorous about training leaders in, say, finance or strategy, why isn't character development part of that core curriculum? Is it just too soft?
Well, yeah, it's often dismissed because you can't really put it on a spreadsheet. You can't optimize it. And it takes time.
A lot of time.
A lot of time. But the failure point we see again and again is this. It's not that leaders don't know the right thing to do. It's that they haven't been formed deeply enough. They don't have the internal stamina to do the right thing when it gets really, really costly.
When it could cost you your job.
Or your reputation. The sources are so clear on this. Character is not an accessory for a leader. It's not a nice to have. It's the fundamental infrastructure.
Oh, I like that word. Infrastructure.
Yeah.
So the foundation is cracked. Doesn't matter how shiny the skyscraper is. It's coming down.
It is absolutely doomed.
So this deficit of inner formation. What are we actually lacking? What are those skills?
Well, we're lacking skills of the interior life.
Yeah.
Leaders are trained obsessively to respond, to optimize, to deliver.
React, react, react.
Yes, but they're almost never trained to attend, to reflect, to just be rooted. So they end up leading from this place of just chronic exhaustion.
Running on fumes.
And when you're running on fumes, your integrity is the first casualty.
Okay, so if the external tools aren't enough, what's the countervision? How do we start building that infrastructure you're talking about?
The countervision basically says that a leader's real effectiveness, their ability to last, to make good ethical calls, to actually serve people, it's tied to practices we usually dismiss.
The private stuff.
The private stuff, the things that seem optional. Prayer, solitude, intentional submission. This isn't about retreating from the world. It's the essential work that makes a public impact even possible. Without it, your success is it's fragile.
Okay, that really sets the stage. So if this infrastructure is the key, let's get into the foundational principles, the big ideas that push back on this culture of speed.
Let's do it. The first anchor is from Psalm 1. It gives us this amazing metaphor of rootedness as moral stability.
The tree planted by streams of water.
That's the one. And what's so critical here is the image itself. It's about stability, not frantic activity. A tree is patient. It's not a speedboat.
Right. It's not a highly efficient machine. Why a tree?
Because a tree is nourished from the inside out, from the ground up. It's fruit. It's seasonal. You can't force it. The focus is all on the roots.
On what's hidden.
All on what's hidden. It gets nourished over time, and that's what makes it resilient no matter the season. Drought, storm, whatever. The fruitfulness you see above ground is just a byproduct of the health below the surface.
And the text contrasts that with the way of drift. What does drift look like in, a corporate setting?
Drift is so subtle, it's described with these verbs. Walking, then standing, then sitting. It's a gradual process,
A slow compromise.
a slow compromise. You start accommodating these little things, one tiny ethical concession at a time. Formation, whether it's good or bad, it always happens slowly.
Mhm.
And that leads right into the second big principle from John 15. This is the idea of abiding as the source of fruitfulness. Jesus' instruction is, well, it's simple and absolute. Just abide. He says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing.
That has to be so confronting for a modern leader, right? Someone who feels all this pressure to do everything, to achieve it all through pure willpower.
It's revolutionary. The implication is that fruitfulness it's something you receive. It's not something you manufacture through more effort. The moment a leader detaches from that abiding, from that source, they become brittle,
Anxious.
so anxious, and performative.
Hmm.
You start substituting your own intensity for real spiritual life. The goal isn't to work harder, it's to stay connected.
That takes so much pressure off.
It does. And the third piece of this architecture is in Galatians 5. It frames character as the measure of maturity. The real outcome of all this formation is listed as the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience.
What's so interesting to me and what really speaks to our critique of modern culture is what's not on that list.
Exactly. You don't see, aggressive visibility.
Right, or disrupting for disruption's sake.
Or even overwhelming charisma. A leader can build a huge platform, be super visible, but still be spiritually immature if things like patience and self-control are missing in their private life.
Which comes back to the infrastructure idea. A crisis, a market crash, a personal failure. It doesn't create your character.
No, it reveals it.
It just shows what was already there or what wasn't. If you're leading from an empty tank, that first big test will expose it every time.
And that exposure can be catastrophic, not just for the leader, but for everyone they influence. So now that we get the architecture, let's shift to the practical tools. How do you actually build this stuff?
Right, it doesn't happen by accident.
Not at all. It takes deliberate practice.
Okay, let's pour the concrete. What's the first one?
Practice number 1 is prayer, and specifically prayer as a reorientation of power.
What do you mean by reorientation?
Well, prayer in this context isn't just a tool to solve problems. It's fundamentally a confession of dependence, of inadequacy. It immediately shatters the illusion that you're doing this all on your own.
How does that help a leader lead better?
It reminds them that their influence is stewardship. It's not an entitlement. Think about Moses. When he's called to lead, his first response isn't a 5-point plan.
Right, he says, who am I?
Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? His authority was anchored in his dependence, not in his resume. Prayer is where you admit your power is borrowed, not owned. That's a huge guard against ego.
Okay, that's powerful. Next up is practice 2, scripture, but it's framed as the formation of imagination. Can you break that down? What's the difference between informative and formative?
An informative reading just gives you facts or rules. A formative reading actually trains you to see the world differently, to see your career, your ambition, your decisions through a biblical lens instead of, the culture's metrics of success. It actually reorients what you desire.
It changes what you love.
It changes what you love. Augustine is the classic example. Immersing himself in scripture just rewired his entire understanding of ambition and morality.
Okay, moving on to the third practice. Silence and solitude. In our world today, that sounds almost impossible, especially for someone in a high-level position.
It is an act of resistance. Silence is actively resisting the constant noise digital professional that just drowns leaders.
And that noise keeps us from looking inward.
Totally. It keeps us from examining our motives. It lets our identity get completely tied to our last quarter's performance. Solitude is where you recalibrate, where you remember the truth, be still, and know that I am God.
And Jesus modeled this, right? The sources point out he was constantly withdrawing to be alone.
Constantly. Before every major decision, he anchored his public ministry in that private communion. If you don't take time to be still, you literally lose the ability to tell the difference between God's voice and the sound of your own anxious ego.
Okay, and the final practice. Number 4, submission and obedience, the antidote to ego. What are we submitting to?
It's about alignment. Alignment with God's will, as you see it in Scripture. And just as important, alignment with the accountability of a wise community. It's what protects leaders from that silent corrosion of ego that comes with power.
Because power unchecked
Destroys the person who has it every time.
And the key insight here seems to be that integrity isn't built in the big moments.
No.
It's built in the tiny, hidden, ordinary choices. Being faithful in the small things is what prepares you for the big responsibilities.
That's it. It's the daily unseen discipline. So if a leader actually does these four things, prayer, scripture, silence, submission, what's the payoff? How does this internal work show up on the outside?
Right, what's the result?
Well, the first is integrity under pressure. We said it before, but it's key.
Yeah.
Pressure doesn't create character, it just reveals it. It's like fire testing gold.
So an unformed leader, they get defensive.
Anxious. Defensive. They compromise. They keep secrets because their internal wiring is brittle. But a formed leader, they stay anchored. They stay consistent.
Can you give us an example of that kind of anchoring?
Daniel in Babylon is the perfect one. I mean, he was in one of the most politically dangerous environments imaginable. And the crisis that nearly got him killed, it came because he refused to stop his hidden daily habit of prayer.
A private habit with public consequences.
Exactly. His public stability was just a reflection of his private, non-negotiable habit.
That's a great example. The second payoff you mentioned is emotional and spiritual resilience. And you're clear, this isn't just about being tough.
No, it's not about stamina, it's about rootedness. And this goes straight to the heart of the burnout problem. The sources define burnout as a kind of spiritual amnesia.
Forgetting who your sustainer is.
You forget that it's God sustaining you, not your own frantic effort. The solution to this is what they call the Sabbath-shaped leader.
What does a Sabbath-shaped leader look like in a really demanding job?
They see rest daily, weekly, seasonally, not as a luxury, not as a weakness.
As an act of trust.
An act of trust and obedience. It's a direct protest against the idolatry of activity. It's trusting that God can do more in 6 days than you can do in 7. You step away so your soul can recharge, trusting the world won't fall apart. That's real resilience.
Which brings us to the final outcome, legacy. The long obedience. It's saying the real measure isn't the short-term win.
No, it's not about quarterly earnings or going viral. It's about endurance over a lifetime. Look at the Apostle Paul at the end of his life. He says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith.
His legacy wasn't about the buildings he started.
No, it was the cumulative impact of faithful, humble choices. It's a quieter, slower, deeper kind of leadership, and it's what we desperately need.
So if we were to boil this whole deep dive down to one core truth for you, what would it be?
It would be this. Leadership begins beneath the surface. Your outer life, your public influence, it can never ever rise higher than the inner soul that sustains it.
And for anyone listening who's thinking, okay, I'm in, what do I do now? The sources suggest some really practical next steps. One is creating a rule of life for leaders. What is that exactly?
A rule of life is just an intentional plan. It's a sustainable pattern to align your spiritual practices with your professional life. It might be scheduling 20 minutes of prayer every morning or having a hard stop time every evening. It's a fence you build to protect your soul.
And they also suggest a spiritual resilience audit.
Which is just being brutally honest with yourself. Where are the pressures of my job quietly eroding my depth, my integrity? It's about taking stock.
So we want to leave you with a question that builds right on that. It's a bit unsettling, but it's necessary. If your influence, your success, and your responsibilities keep growing, will your inner life be deep enough to support it?
Or will that success eventually expose what your inner formation was meant to heal?
That is the ultimate challenge.
The work is internal, but the impact is everything.
A powerful thought to carry forward. We invite you to reflect on that essential connection between private depth and public influence. Thank you for diving deep with us.